Everyone, welcome to another edition of Founder Wisdom Podcast. Today we have with us two very successful entrepreneurs, Stephen Jordan and Wilson Smith, both co-founders of Cabinet Startup. They have an interesting business and we're going to talk about that. So, hey guys, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about Cabinet?
Sure. Well, nice to meet you, Charles. I'm Stephen. And Wilson's here as well. I think he's below me on the screen. However, someone might be watching this or listening. We started Cabinet Startup as a way to change the way people get into trades being home services primarily. We have, at least for me, speaking for myself, I have dramatically improved my life through home services. And as we built a business around that, it became very successful, multi-seven figures a year. Specifically with cabinet refinishing.
Okay.
And as we were growing that business, we realized a lot of other people wanted to own their own business as well. It was somewhat during the period of time where entrepreneurship started to become really cool.
Yeah.
And
Russell Brunson period.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody, or a lot of people at that point, were trying to do online businesses.
Yeah.
And with my business, Elite Cabinet Coatings, it was very much offline, but we were leveraging a lot of technology and using the internet to generate our leads. And so we incorporated a lot of technology, but I realized giving people a path to build their own business could be a business on its own. And by growing through partnerships or consulting, I saw it as a good opportunity for us to help people change their lives using home services. And so that's more or less what Cabinet Startup is. It's a learning platform for people to not only learn cabinetry, but to learn how to build a business around that service.
Pretty cool. And yeah, I was talking the other day with Wilson, and it's pretty damn expensive to build your own cabinet vs also like going after someone that can do it for you. Well, tell us about the option here. So if I want to rebuild the cabinet here, what are my options as a consumer? And then let's talk about the business side of it.
Sure. Well, as a consumer, there are a few options. If you want to update your cabinetry in your house, you can certainly tear it all down and build new. And let's just think of a hypothetical situation. Let's say you have a small kitchen. However that means to you, you're probably somewhat close to what I'm envisioning as well. You know, a small kitchen might run $20,000 for all new cabinets for a carpenter to come in and build you new cabinets. Whereas that homeowner may also really want to change the look of their cabinets. They may not have a priority of replacing everything because the boxes often are in good condition. They're strong still. The kitchen just looks outdated. So instead of replacing everything, they may want to just change the doors. Yeah. You can change the color of the cabinets and get all new cabinet doors and change the color of those, of course. And so your cabinets look new, even though they're not technically new. And that might cost you for a small kitchen $5,000. And then you have refinishing, which is a primary service that I built a business around. We also did a lot of cabinet refacing, but initially it was cabinet refinishing. And that's where you'll take that small kitchen that looks really outdated, but you'll refinish it. You'll change the color of it. Let's say it's an old stained wood that just looks aged. Well, maybe the homeowner wants all of that to be nice, bright white. And we can do that for around $3,000 for a small kitchen. And so a homeowner can get a new look for their kitchen and they can look brand new, even though it may not be, for a fraction of the cost of replacing everything. And so those are the options that a homeowner typically will have.
And then as a business owner, like who is your target customer? Let's start with that question. What's their profile?
In regards to Cabinet Startup?
Yeah, correct. Like entrepreneurs that would have their own little, I won't call it franchise, but like their own little cabinet business.
Sure. Well, with Cabinet Startup, we aim to serve essentially anyone that is willing to learn and willing to apply the information that they get from us. So we have helped people with literally zero experience in home services, where they may be using a drill for the first time in our training center. We also, of course, have worked with existing painting companies that see value in specializing. So instead of being able to paint everything in the house and being somewhat a generalist, we train them and educate them on how to be a specialist and charge a lot more money per project because of that.
Okay, got it. And what's the cost of your program? And is it in a specific location or is it national?
Sure, maybe Wilson, if you want to go into some of the offerings we have.
Yeah,
go
so
about the
I mean,
numbers.
realistically for us, it's going to depend on how somebody wants to be helped. We kind of have three different levels of support. We have like a 100% done for you, like we build the whole business for you, and then we teach you how to run it. And that program's 25,000. And we had about 30 so people come through that at that level, something right about that.
Nice.
We've helped over 45 people launch in the last 3 years that have gone through the full program. And what's kind of interesting about that is like our typical student is on track to do $10,000 in profit every month within about 90 days of starting with that level of program, because they come into a pre-built existing infrastructure, everything's done.
Okay.
And then we have some lower tiers. One's kind of like a hybrid. We call it the like done with you program, where we build everything on the front end. We take you through the training, and then you go off and you go do it on your own and enjoy your business. And the last one is we have kind of just a lower tier where we do weekly meetings and we do some coaching, but we're not as involved in the business, right? We just provide the information. It's your job to learn it. Okay. And so it kind of depends on where people are at in their business and the level of support that they're looking for. Some people want everything done for them, in which case we're happy to do it. And some people want to take the time to figure it out themselves. Okay,
very cool. Do you guys know Alex or Mosey?
Not personally, but he's from Austin as well. So I've been around, seen him a few times.
Yeah, he had this gym launch thing. This was kind of similar in terms of price tags and all. He started, doing the thing. So like being a gym owner, then he started teaching it, which is the kind of second level in terms of time and energy, which is, I guess, where you're at. And like right now, he's at the level of literally buying out businesses. Is that on you guys' roadmap too?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we very much have the ambition to not only continue partnering with our clients and students, but because we have proven systems that work, we very much are excited to go into businesses that are active but have a lot of room for improvement, which there are a ton in the home services space. So simply applying our systems to existing businesses is a strategy that we look to implement for sure.
And what is different from the franchising model between like what you're doing right now, and would the franchising model be interesting for you guys too?
So when I was building my own business, Elite Cabinet Coatings, I recognized that if you don't align incentives enough, then your employees or team will start to feel like they are working for you as the owner. And when the day-to-day operations of the business are as if they are doing it for the owner, it's not necessarily sustainable because it becomes dependent on everyone liking the owner or everyone being friendly with the owner. That's just naturally not how the world works. There's going to be times people have their own challenges. And so you want things to be aligned enough to where everyone is doing things for their own goals. And you want everyone's goals to align so that inadvertently everyone is contributing to each other's goals, but individually everyone is working towards their own. And so we applied that with Cabinet Startup in the sense that rather than franchising or creating one brand that all of our customers or clients or partners work for or under, we created a system to where everyone can have their own brands. And we have an ecosystem where we all support each other and we have centralized resources, but every one of our clients has their very own brand that they can grow and scale and sell if they'd like to.
Interesting. And is it national, or do they need to show up to the center for the actual physical training?
So both. We have helped people all over the country. There's only a few states now where we haven't had a client or partner launch their business in, but more often than not, they will fly to our training center in Orlando, Florida, where I will go through everything with them from A to Z on how to do the trade and how to build the business around it. Yeah.
So let's say that I have 25K hanging around, or I don't, I just go for alone. I'm this 22-year-old kid, and I want to potentially do something with my hands. And most importantly, I want to do some money. I just basically go see you guys. I paid a 25K, and after that, I make 10K a month. So I basically pay the program back in like 6 months, let's say, right? Like something like that. Is that the math here?
3 to 6 on average. I mean, obviously there's a difference in revenue and profits. You always have to decide how much of your business you want to take out versus reinvest, right? But generally speaking, for like a one-man operation in cabinet refinishing, you're going to be running 65 to 75% profit margins, and that's being relatively conservative. Once you hire a team, those numbers change.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
You talk about a 22-year-old kid. If you go to our YouTube channel, we've got 2 students who were under 23 when they came through.
Okay.
Both of whom now have 6-figure businesses. We've got a guy, Jeremy Preed, out in Indianapolis, and Noah out in Minneapolis, maybe.
Because there's no like cost. There's no material cost, right? It's only your hands and like services you provide, right?
I mean, there's some paint. Your materials
paint and drills, I guess. And
yeah,
okay.
They're minor in comparison. It's going to be less than. It's going to be somewhere between 10 to 12% of most jobs.
Okay, so you don't need like a special truck. You can have that in the back of your Honda Civic.
Not unless you just want to show off. And there's a lot of that. There's nothing wrong with it. But yeah, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Steven, didn't you start in like a BMW 3 Series, like an old one?
Yeah, I had a small 4-door sedan, a small BMW 3 Series when I first started this business, and I started out of that car.
I had that too. Back in the days, 2006, I think. I love that car. It's pretty interesting, I must admit. And tell me, Wilson, because we talked about that during last call, you had experience with like the high ticket industry and these programs basically scamming people out. So I think you were disgusted by that. Tell us a bit more about that and how that inspired you to join Cabinet Startup.
Yeah, well, so coming from the high ticket space, one of the cool things about the industry, and high ticket's a broad brush. It's a really broad brush. But there are some firms that I think are a lot better than others. One of the big challenges, and we've seen this in the last couple of years here, the FTC has been coming after a lot of these, some of the names, because they make big claims and promises that for the most part, they cannot back up. And if you look at the success rates, most of them were like, some of the better program success rates were 5 to 8%, right? Right. A lot of their business model was based on collections more than, results. If you look at the testimonials are all old and outdated, never get updated. And so, yeah, I was building a business in that space because I came from the trades originally. I was in solar, and I moved into high ticket, and I was like, this is crazy because I don't have to deliver all of this stuff. We're not, climbing on roofs. Like, oh my gosh, I can work from anywhere. But I very quickly became disenfranchised with the amount of just flat out BS, man. Just, hey, yeah, you can be a millionaire in your underwear from home. And it's like, this is something Steve and I were talking about not too long ago. The idea of get rich quick somehow got replaced with get rich easy. And everybody thinks that they're going to have this Amazon business making $1 zillion doing nothing. And it just isn't real.
Yeah.
So
the market is exchange of energy, and there you can work hard, you can work long, or you can work smart, or all together like Jeff Bezos and Amazon. So yeah, I tend to try to work smart, and think a lot and do a lot of IQ type of work in my brain, read a lot, get crisscross data points to see like where the money at. I have this cold email agency, and I try a bunch of startup ideas and conclude what works and doesn't work with that. That's my way of doing things. But indeed, yeah, it's kind of hard it is really fucking hard to get success in this market. So much competition, so forth. I'm just interested to know, how do you guys get your satisfaction data? How do you guys make sure that your students are successful?
Well, they all still operate. That's the kind of cool thing about it, right?
Yeah.
So we create their websites, we build all the resources for them, we put together their Facebook pages so we can actually go see them still operational, which is kind with the trades, one of the things that's very different because the high ticket space is super competitive, and that's changed, right? That started with Sam Evans blowing up, and then Russell Fino, and then blew up, and traffic funnels blew up, and it got a little bit
Danlock.
yeah. But with the trades, the exact opposite things happen, right? We're still building more houses than we've ever built before, but there are less people going to the trades that have ever gone into them.
True
and
that.
I stand by this. You can be a mediocre, like a very mediocre business person in the trades and make really good money.
I agree. I agree. Like there's a huge opportunities. Most of these businesses are boomers. How are you guys taking advantage of that?
Well, the way we take advantage of that is we use the internet.
Yeah, because I mean, I would like think about, I mean, and there's a bunch of people already doing that, acquiring these boomer businesses. I think that's a frigging gold mine. Have you guys thought of something with that to ride that trend of boomers retiring and the labor shortage?
Yeah. So we're kind of in the process right now of looking to help with the acquisition of like a large store manufacturer, and then make a connection through there. And then what we're looking at doing is potentially going in and finding businesses that we see have a bunch of space and opportunity for growth, but aren't using the systems. And then working out a deal with those individuals where we'll buy the business from them once they hit certain milestones, and then coach them on the path to that milestone.
Okay.
So the big problem with a lot of the trades right now is as these guys are getting ready to retire, they may not be interested in growing or scaling the business before they get to that point. So that's something we have to contend with.
Okay.
But yeah, we absolutely would love to get in that. The reality is it's probably easier to scale a business that already exists than it is to start one from scratch.
Do you think that's the case? Because to me, I mean, if I would get into buying boomers businesses, I would take one that has already systems in place, mostly composed of humans, and I would add the tech component to it, a lead generation machine, a CRM, and all of these things. And I would kind of let it roll, because yeah, humans, they just leave after a while, especially if the company changes hands. I think, like the old lady, she's going to leave too, because the CEO is not there anymore, the founder. So do you really think that's the case? In my mind, it would be easier but yeah, not easier because the culture is already there and so forth, and all of that changes. But is it like a fantasy we're sold buying the boomer businesses?
Resources, knowledge within the community. If you find a business that's got a lot of 5-star reviews and has no systems, it's going to be easier to take that business doing $10,000 a month and scale them to $100,000 a month. It is to be starting at zero, because you have to build the reputation. You have to, basically invest to generate some of these things from scratch. Now, starting the business, if you don't already have the capital to purchase, is by far the best option, because it's better to have one than not. But yeah, I would say it's probably easier to scale something that already exists than to start it from scratch.
And most of these existing businesses, they may have processes, but they don't have standard operating procedures, meaning their processes are not documented. And so the business does rely on Susie, the receptionist, or John and Jacob, the technicians, or the warehouse guys. And all of those processes are in their head. Okay. And so it would be very valuable for anyone acquiring a small business to immediately document all of the systems, so that the business relies on the processes and the systems, not the people. In a way, obviously we need to incorporate people, but if you have an effective system for training new hires, then you can replace an unforeseen situation. You can replace a person very quickly. And so incorporating technology and just overall organization into an existing business that has a reputation, that is already existing off of its own word of mouth or lack of additional sources of lead generation or customer acquisition, we can simply go into a business and just make it a lot better, a lot faster than starting from scratch, because you'll still have to do all of the same things. You just don't have anything to start with. And so it just requires a little bit more time if you're starting from scratch.
Yeah, I guess the people that excel at buying these boomer businesses are master at organization and creating systems and following up with these KPIs, kind of master managers, which is a hard thing to do. I mean, even up to this day, I have trouble with that, documenting everything and making everything loud and clear. So that's kind of interesting. So I have headaches when I think of physical businesses. I had my supplement, closed it down a couple of years ago. You guys are kind of in the physical business. If you want, you don't have a product. Although you have a digital product, one could say, but is that the holy grail? Like take a physical business and make an info product slash virtual product out of it?
It's certainly viable, but it doesn't have to be the only thing the business does. You're seeing this more in the trades. If you continue to look for successful people in home services, there's more and more people building onto their revenue with virtual products, because I think more than ever before, you're starting to see people raise their hand and say, hey, that's interesting. Hey, I want to learn more about that. And that just happens to be a business that's offline. You know, with everyone putting a lot of energy and promotion around online businesses, it left a lot of opportunity for offline businesses. And so now, as everyone has maybe tried 1, 2, 3 times to start an online business, they become much more likely to be curious about offline businesses. They both have their pros and cons and different types of challenges, but offline businesses are a lot different, but even in a good way, I would say, because when you're trying to hire people and you're giving something that they can see and touch, there's a little bit more connection with them and that business versus everyone being a remote team working on a remote digital business. There's more about, there's just a lot less connection, a lot less, there tends to be less loyalty, there tends to be less conviction in what the business is doing versus someone that can be in the business touching and feeling what they're actually working on
True.
and seeing the people that they're serving. When you're doing a drop shipping company, you don't see your customers. They're nothing essentially but a number. When you have an offline business, you're building real connections with your team members, but also the customers. And so it creates a different experience.
True, like that. Where do you guys want to be in 5 years in terms of customers, in terms of business? Do you want to expand in like windows as well? So it's like, tell us about Cabinet Startup in 5 years from now.
Well, we've recognized a lot of the solutions we provide specific to cabinet businesses are universal to many other home service businesses. And so we want to continue approaching businesses in other home services like windows. We've worked with epoxy businesses and applying the systems that we have into their business in exchange for equity or a form of partnership. We don't necessarily want to replace the operators in the business, but we want to continue to support them. And we want everyone dependent on the results. We don't necessarily see a strong future in selling business coaching without a dependence on the results, because so many people have been manipulated, have been shorthanded in the virtual products that they're buying for entrepreneurship to receive this an even better service in exchange for better results is a little bit of a more attractive offer than, hey, give me a bunch of money and I promise you'll get the results. Rather, give me no money, I'll help you, and then we'll share in the results.
Love that. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much a future, partnering up with clients and getting equity in there. And yeah, I love what I hear. Where can people find out more about you guys and Cabinet Startup?
Few places. Top 3 are their website, www.cabinetstartup.com. We have our YouTube channel, which is just YouTube/Cabinet Startup. And then we also have a podcast, and our podcast is awesome. We give a lot of incredible stuff. We get all sorts of great emails from people saying how much they enjoy it. So if you're in the trades or you're thinking about the trades, come listen, because we cover pretty much everything, you know.
The YouTube channel is called Tradesman Talks, so it's a little bit different than.
No, it's Cabinet Startup.
It is Cabinet Startup. Well, we'll cut
Cabinet Startup it is.
Yes, we call it Tradesman Talks.
The podcast is named Tradesman Talks, but yeah, it's hosted on Cabinet Startup YouTube channel.
Nice. Perfect. Man. I'll Google that and I'll listen to a couple of episodes. Thank you so much, guys, for coming today. Think you dropped a couple of value bombs there. I think people will appreciate it. So have yourself a great day and rest of the week.
Of course. Thanks, Charles.
Thanks
Talk to
for
you
having
soon.
us.